Hey, welcome to Roaming Minds. I'm Carlos.
I'm AJ, and here we talk about the thoughts that kept us out of all the really good schools. You know, those quiet spirals, the questions that keep you up at night, and the trials and tribulations that we all face as human beings.
This show is part reflection, part reminder. We're not broken, we're on a journey of growth. Please note that this conversation should not be taken as medical or professional advice. See the link in the description below if you require immediate help.
Every week, we unpack what it means to choose joy. Not the loud version that Karen is peddling, but the quiet, hard-earned kind that comes from finally feeling like yourself again.
Let's keep this conversation going. Join us on Discord or connect to a peer through Kindred. Let's get into it.
We've definitely talked about rest not feeling restorative previously. It's interesting, like thinking about uncomfortable silences. The fact that we have a term for uncomfortable silences is kind of, I don't want to say weird. It's just a kind of an odd concept,
Yeah.
because that really is only applicable, at least in my mind, is if there's other people around. Not necessarily I'm sitting in the middle of the woods and I'm alone with my thoughts. It's not always an uncomfortable silence. And this one's a little interesting because I honestly can't remember the last time I was genuinely bored. Now, that could just be because I've gotten older and added more and more and more and more on top of my plate. But truly bored, I can always find something to do.
That's the thing. I just want some. I'm like, well, usually it's not that I don't have anything. I might neglect stuff. The thing is that I always have something. So I'm trying to think. Have I ever been truly been bored? Because I do have even if I'm bored, is it boredom just because I'm tired? I just do not want to do whatever I'm currently doing, or is it like I got nothing else going on in my life because I 30,000 things on my plate.
Right. I remember as a kid, I had run out of shit to do. It was either play basketball or a little bit of video games or do homework, which wasn't happening. Oh, that's so jacked up. I feel like these are things that we kind of all, without necessarily, I don't necessarily think that this is like some revolutionary concept. I just don't think that we tend to think about that regularly. I haven't thought about why I haven't been bored in God only fucking knows how long. I do think about uncomfortable silences regularly often, but I don't, it seems natural that the silence is uncomfortable. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then we've beaten rest not feeling restorative with a fucking wooden bat over and over again. If we're doing rest right, it should feel restorative. If we're not, and so really what it brings us to is this idea of stimulation. And as everybody, as we should know, that idea of constant stimulation has been, I don't want to say popularized, I don't want to say mainstream, because that's not the right word, but it has been a topic of conversation fairly frequently these days. And typically I think that we refer to it as just constant screen stimulation, but it really, and especially if you live in cities, it expands well beyond that. It's not just about the screen. So there are things that are related to the screen that goes beyond a screen, if that sounds fucking crazy just saying it. But things like notifications, that's not necessarily a screen stimulation. It's just a byproduct of a screen. Things like noise, that's not, again, not directly tied to a screen, but it happens because of screens because we have access to immediate information. Who's ever tried some whatchamacallit, that thing? La 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 la. That thing, Carlos. God damn it.
What?
Some like no, no, no. I
Anymore. It's the thing.
who's ever tried some wellness hack that didn't work out for them?
Probably most people.
Right. Not because, is that because that specific wellness hack doesn't work? No, it just didn't work for you in that moment in time. Maybe, hey, look, I'm not here to shit on people. Like, okay, that's fine. You can do it. I'm allowing it. No.
Some wellness. It's not. It's. I don't want to say the. Let me watch my words. Maybe there is some pseudo science to it, and it might be beneficial to a very small population. But if you look at the thing entirely, it is not helpful. Most of it might not even be harmful. It's just a thing that exists. It doesn't do anything.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm looking at it. Well, no, I guess even that would all be noise. If it doesn't work and at all, that's still noise. If it only works at some points in time, that's still noise. We get a lot of visual input on any given day. That's a lot of stimulation, and we're constantly shifting back and forth between different visual stimuli. It's one thing to remain in one spot and the visual stimuli genuinely kind of stays the same. But when you're constantly shifting attention and focus to different parts and places, that's a lot of just stimulation for modern day activities. When you couple that with everything else, then you have even more. You're like, whoa. But the best thing is that's not even all the stimulation that we have going. We've got social pressures and navigating those social aspects of life, which again, more stimulation, more
More noise.
yeah, right. We are constantly fucking task switching. And not because it's required, but because it's kind of what's expected at this point in time. You're expected. I think about it. Even I'll use this example. When you were a software engineer 20 years ago, you were writing one kind of software, typically for the back end or typically for the front end. Now that job is developed to being a full stack engineer where you're developing for the front end, you're developing for the back end. And I'm not saying that that's a wrong thing, but more is required of a software engineer today than what was required back then. We've been kind of looking at it from a negative perspective, but it doesn't have to be these negative aspects. It can be more positive things. If you're positively, like, nah, positively, that sounds fucking terrible. If you if you have some sort of exciting feeling for something that's coming up, something that's still stimulation. Your brain is processing those emotions. So all of these processes are happening more and more and more and more and more. And again, like I said, we're talking about it like it's a problem, but I don't know that it's a problem. It's just a reality of modern day living at this point in time. The only thing that would make it a problem is the fact that our nervous system was not developed to handle all of it. That doesn't mean that it can't learn.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that we can't get better at it. But coming back to that idea of cognitive stack, if we are constantly getting stimulation and constantly adding more and not taking that required rest and not the fake I don't like that either. not the non-restful rest. I don't know what else to call it, man. But that rest that we take that really just doesn't move the needle at all. Eh, when we don't have that, the nervous system can't adapt because your nervous system needs that adap needs that rest in order to be able to go and repair, revitalize, and get back in there. I could only imagine how many inputs are competing for people's attention at any given moment,
Probably quite a few.
right? And every single input, every single bit of stimulation requires a certain level of processing by your brain. It is all stimulation, and it is like even the stuff that we are not paying attention to gets intaken and processed. It may not co consciously processed, not actively processed. Not actively, that's definitely not the right way
Yeah,
to say that. Not all of it makes it into our conscious fold, but that doesn't mean that the brain is not intake. I know for a fact that there's a MIDI controller sitting on my bed over here. I can see it out the corner of my eye, but I am not actively processing that information until I shift my focus over there. Do you see what I'm trying to say? I don't know if that makes.
I was looking at I forget where I saw this, but I like somebody put up a picture and there like it was 30 objects like in the picture and like half
Uh-huh,
about half or so were blue and half or so were like green or some other color. And
uh-huh,
before you were shown the picture, like the prompt is only folk like yeah, I gave into it to our audience here, like because actually you have quite an interesting background that I could actually work with this because you have like two colors going on. Uh, I was like, if I say focus on only the black things, your attention is focused on only looking at those things. But then if I were to take your screen away and I said what things were blue, maybe you'll get one or two things that were blue, but you would have missed the whole entire blue thing and vice versa with the black if I asked the opposite.
it's super interesting how much gets filtered out by our attention. But that again, and I guess that only point is it doesn't mean that we're not processing that information. We still have to process the blue objects that are in there, the white, so I get that makes perfect sense. And a lot of us, maybe not a lot, but and sometimes I have a tendency to think that if I just switch my task, that's like me taking a break. Hey man, I'm taking a break from web development. I'm going to go do market segmentation. Yeah.
I mean, y- so yes, it's a break from the tax you were doing before, but is it really a break for you? So it
No,
depends.
not
How are we looking at it?
it's funny. Yeah. No, yeah, it's comical. Just to give an example, I've been learning how to make electronic music because that's my little happy place. That's one of the things that reduces that cognitive stack for me.
Mhm.
However, at the same time, it also increases it because I still have to learn something new. And so going through the frustration of that builds that stack, and it's only after I get past that lesson that I come down. And so again, just because I switched to that task doesn't equate to, hey man, you're resting from that because I'm still going ahead creating more noise, creating more stimulation, all kinds of good stuff. The worst thing that I think we can do in the hopes of resting is passive scrolling, doom scrolling. In what way, shape, or form does doom scrolling reduce the amount of inputs coming into your body?
I don't think it does.
Oh, there's no way it does. If anything, it does the exact opposite because it just went ahead and actively added to everything that we just talked about. Noise, visual stimulus, emotional processing, right? Task switching. Because you're going from one topic to the next. I'll go from music to kung fu to gardening. Dude, it just is constantly switching. But how do a lot of us spend time relaxing? Doom scrolling.
Really go quote unquote and entertainment is such broad because like sports and things like that too are part of like entertainment, but there is some input in that. So like you are never. It's this is I think was there a book on this? Can somebody truly be resting in the 21st century? I think there's an
Mm-hmm.
article about that goes along the line because we live in a world where even our the things that we would do to shift our attention from being overworked. It's it's weird because yes, you're relaxing, but it's just you're not focusing on that task that was originally trading and had all these other issues coming with it. So you're just shifting your brain to focus on something else. But is that really resting? And even then, because for example, I barely slept this past night because 3 hours I kept waking up, I was tossing and churning, and I was like, and then like I'll wake up and then like it'll come in my mind, I'll go do something, come back, lay down, fall asleep for another hour, get up and do something else. So it's just that constant go, 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 go.
Mm-hmm. That's a big. So that's exactly what we're talking about. We have embraced that way of being because it really is it's a way of being. It is not, hey, let me wake up and kind of let me just sit back and enjoy kind of things, because that equates to I'm bored. I'm just sitting around. What am I doing? That is a lack of productivity. Why am I not doing something that I need to be doing instantaneously? That was the wrong word, but that's okay. If we are constantly providing stimulation in the forms of inputs, in no way, shape, or form can our nervous system slow down and perform the necessary reset that it needs in order to come back a little bit stronger, a little bit healthier. I talked about uh coming down from undergrad. Dude, there were times where I would be sitting in undergrad classes and falling asleep. Not because I wanted to go to sleep, but because I genuinely could not keep my fucking eyes open any longer. I was go, 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 go 100% of the time, and it took weeks to come back down from that. Because I still had other things that I had to get done and whatever else. It it is very it's problematic when we just keep going and going and going and we don't allow ourselves that reset. It's just like with working out. If I'm constantly just like, well, I'm just going to build the most massive chest ever and I just keep doing bench press and I just keep doing bench press, but I never properly recover from it,
Oh yeah.
my progress isn't going anywhere. All it's doing is maintaining, maybe, but even at that, entropy is going to kick in at some point in time. Performance is going to degrade. It makes no difference. We have to have that rest, and when we're talking about your nervous system, we are talking about reduction in inputs. If we don't, it just isn't going to work. This is why we can go sit and watch TV for 2 hours and be like, oh man, I'm so tired. Your body rested, but your brain did not.
Did your body did your body
If
rest?
you're not moving, I okay, I see where you're going. I get it. Yes, all right. I do understand.
And for a simple explanation, yes, your body was resting. Sorry,
No,
we were
no,
not.
no. It's okay. That it is an important distinction, right? Your body technically isn't resting because your brain is still constantly sending signals out there. There's all kinds of different little twitches. I get it. I do understand.
Sorry, that's the physiological part of that.
Right.
Yeah,
We perceive it
as rest.
as
Yeah,
resting. And again, not saying that those things are bad, but if we are overwhelmed and if our brain is not getting to that reset point, that's what we need to go ahead and make happen.
yeah,
Don't I know there's I don't know that I'm there's been a lot of recent work on studying light and how that affects everything, have brain function, all that kind of good stuff. Again, this just goes back to that is stimulation for your brain. We're talking about screens indirectly. We are talking about other pieces of that. Not pieces, but other concepts outside of screens. But light is a really, really big one because we don't always get to control light. Unless something is pitch black, we are not taking, and I mean pitch black, absence of light altogether, we are constantly taking in more and more inputs because light illuminates those inputs, so we are going to naturally get more. It is much easier to have a one-track focus in a dark environment than it is in a light environment. Why? Because in a light environment, there's a lot of different things that I'm seeing that I can go ahead and use for some sort of inspiration. In the dark, not as much.
I do have a question.
Sure.
Sorry, third turn. Can a person truly ever rest? Because I'm just thinking about it. Because even when we're sleeping, we're not really resting because there's still signals, there's still things going on. Can person I might be getting too out
No,
there, but
uh,
can I mean, yes, you can truly rest when but other than that, can a person who is living can they truly ever rest? Just because we feel rejuvenated and we feel our system is back to a good base for ourselves, does that mean we were rested, or is just the system doing what it's intended to do, catching up to itself after, a prolonged width of, I don't want to use the word abuse, but like, essentially what we do is like abuse our body, walking, doing all these things. Like you are literally like just traumatizing your body. Then your body finds a way to recover from it. And then you feel good again. And then so you can keep doing the thing that you need to do.
yeah, that's a super interesting loop. That loop of move, or deteriorate and recover. That might be outside of the scope for today, but I do want to come back to that at some point in time. So please, let's make sure we make a note of that. To answer your question of can we actually rest? First, we have to define rest and what that actually means. Okay? So I'm going to look up
I was gonna say there is two
I just
definition of two ideas can come into my mind when I think of rest. I think of I am tired, fatigued, and then I'm resting and kind of going to that idea like I have a soreness in my muscles or I have brain fog and I sleep and I wake up, my mind is clear or my soreness is gone.
Mm,
That's the and then there's the idea of the more psychological and higher intellectual aspect of it of my mind. Yeah, I took a time off. I was doing something that's dawning on me, a task, really taskful, and I took a step back. That really, uh, and I once I removed that, like, whether like reflection or whatever, and things we've
mhm,
talked about,
right.
I better, and therefore my mind is at rest or at ease.
Yeah. And so just to put it into perspective, and I'm going to just I'm going to read it as a verb and as a noun. Cease work or movement in order to relax, refresh oneself, or recover strength. be placed or supported so as to stay in a specified position. And then the noun version is an instance or period of relaxing or ceasing to engage in strenuous or stressful activity. So I think if we look at that as ceasing to engage in stressful activity, yes, we can rest. But again, there's that baseline that we have to reach. That's, I think, the key that we need to understand is that we have to rest in such a way that it drops our nervous system below that baseline. This is why we get that constant stimulation as a normal part of our day-to-day activities, because when we rest, we do not drop below that baseline or rest or our idea of it, whatever, insert boom there, because this is how you get, well, if I sit down and I'm by myself and it's completely quiet, that's just unacceptable. I don't want that. At one point in time, we used to have to learn how to deal with that. We didn't have a choice. At least when I was growing up, if I didn't have any friends to play basketball with, I played basketball by myself. That's just how it was. It's not like I could be like, oh, let me go DM little Timmy while I'm playing basketball or some other. It didn't matter. Our video games back then didn't have multiplayer chat features.
Where you have to go to somebody's house or they have to
Huh?
go to the house.
Yep.
So awkward because
Dude, we
who is it?
used to say that again.
I'm just reminding myself because how friends come over my person like, who is this? Why are you here? Why are they in my house?
There was a time where we used to have to pick up computers and take them to other people's house if we wanted to be in the same room and talk to each other while we were playing games. And now Discord makes that stupid fucking easy. You don't have to be in the same place anymore. Everyone can be on a. Say it again.
I say you don't even have to be in the same country or time zone
Yeah, right. So that's
or hypothetically even the same planet.
yes. Um, and so that gets us to go ahead and just constantly go for input. Input. I need an input. Why would I choose to not have an input when I can have it like that all the time? Especially if we are not taught from an early age that that's what is normal. And when I say that, that's not, oh, my parents taught me how to do this. Were they doing it? I would venture out to say, probably not. I didn't grow up like that. My family was constantly going. That was where I learned because again, we talk about what goes on in our surroundings. That's what we observed. We observed people going and going and going and going. So that becomes our normal. Stimulation has really become our default state. We really treat stimulation now as a default state. If I'm bored, if I'm in a room with somebody else and we are not talking, what is the first thing that I'm going to do?
I'm either going to try to engage in a different topic or I'm going on my phone to like I don't know, try to entertain myself or at least just kind of get away, try to pique my interest or with
Right,
some
right. But why aren't we just going to sit in silence and appreciate each other's presence?
because I think it's a twofold question. I think as a society we've just moved away from that and at least
Huh?
personal, it might just be a skill issue that maybe as the generations are getting younger because of that overstimulation, some people are and that's it's not to say that this is not within older generations as well, but some
Uh-huh.
people are like talking about resting. Sometimes to some people, being in a quieter environment, that is their stress. Like that to them is not resting. That is very stressful to
Uh-huh.
them. Like sitting and being with their thoughts. Some people cannot do that. They cannot fathom it. They do not like the idea of that. That makes them feel much worse than actively talking to somebody or doing something.
Right. But those are skills that we can learn. It's not just because, and I think it gets a bad rep. We don't always think about that. We always hear the I can't do that. That's not possible for me. Like, what do you mean it's not possible for you? You can learn how to do just about anybody can learn just about anything. It's not it's not something that you may have to work a little bit harder at it. It may not come to you instantaneously, but that doesn't mean that you are incapable of learning it. That would mean that you are incapable of producing new neural pathways, which we know isn't the case.
Things like that, because it's sometimes with acquired skills, because we're not all born with learning how to suture, if that makes
Hmm.
sense,
Yeah.
or play basketball real well. Are these things that obviously, like, if there is work, you can see the work that goes into the skill that is being affected. I think people can easily understand that, but if it's that thing of where you also don't really see the results, you can see the external results, and it's somebody just explaining their internal thoughts to you.
Hmm.
People, how do, as much as understand you can get, you can't really be in somebody's head. You can't really have this same experience as somebody. So it becomes very hard to really be like, oh, I can do that. It's easier to go, oh, I can't, because what's the point? Because even if you try, you might not even reach the same conclusion as that person. So it's like, well, what's going on?
Yeah. And it's also it's it's tougher because our our default, so our default baseline of how we operate is so much higher that when things like that occur, we are not in a place to be able to stop and think and stop and say, all right, well, maybe if I practice this a little bit, I can at least try and get better before immediately just straight going to, oh, I can't do that. That's not possible for me. This presents an issue because when we remove the stimulation, our nervous system is going to treat it more like a threat. And so that lack of input is actually keeping us in that highly agitated state. We have to slow down. That was with no context, that was problematic. We have to find a way to find hmm, I don't like that either. If we want to find a way to nope, nope,
No,
that's not right either. That's not right. I can't I this is gonna really make me angry.
I don't think there. I know what you're trying to say. And I don't think there is. There is always going to be. But what? But. So I think
Yeah.
I think our listeners are kind of. This is gonna sound so rude, but they're smart enough to just decipher like the meaning behind it.
Yeah, I think that it really it I think the best way to go about it is we have to find a way to reduce that baseline of what we operate at. The only way to do that is through that rest, reducing our inputs to below that threshold so that our nervous system can reset. If not, we are constantly living in that our brain body is living in that constantly agitated state. It is going to actively eat us from the inside out. That's not what I that's a really big issue
Yeah,
because then that affects everything. It affects our emotional well-being. It affects how I connect with others emotionally. because my influence field is operating on you, your influence field is operating on me. This is highly problematic. It increases the amount of decisions that we have to make, so it's draining us constantly because I'm like, ooh, threat over here, 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 threat over here. Every threat, every new stimulus is a new decision that has to be made. It is super problematic to be able or not to be able to make decisions like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is where a lot of those modern day issues arise.
Mhm.
We don't have the patience to be able to deal with it. We are constantly agitated. We're constantly, I shouldn't say agitated, constantly activated. So that patience tolerance decreases. That's a problem, especially for social interactions, whether they be friendly, non friendly, more intimate, any of that. It affects all of them. And then even the smallest bit of friction is just, I can't, no, we're not dealing with that. No. I personally, I see that all over the place. And I mean all over the place. People are, I'll be at the store somewhere, grocery store, you typically grocery store, and somebody will be taking too long to do something. And somebody will just be like, oh my God, what are they doing here? Chill the fuck out. It's not that serious. You get there. I see all the fucking time. I mean, all the time driving. All the time. People will do some of the craziest maneuvers I have ever fucking seen. I was driving home from work yesterday. Now, this light stays green forever. It's not, you're not going to get through the light. It's not that big of a deal. This dude actually just, as soon as the light turned green, cut everybody off to go straight from the left-hand turn lane rather than just going over to the side, man. Why do we do things like that? Why? Because we're constantly fucking stimulated. We constantly feel like our needs are more important than everybody else. We need to be in this place. What is wrong with you? Do you not understand that? Who gives a fuck? If I'm 5 minutes late, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I left in enough time, but shit happens, man. And I'm very rarely am I ever late because I leave at least a few minute buffer. But
I understand people now wanting to be. There are certain segments where it's like really laughing that, and like those are, but those are far small. And versus if you are on going to your um going to the grocery store and you just want it to be there at 1 o'clock because you have to be do something at like 2 o'clock. If you're 5 minutes late to the grocery store, it's fine. It's not in the grand scheme of things. It's not unless
Mhm.
if you're a doctor. You're like, I need to be at the hospital, and my patient's going to die. That's slightly different. So I think people have to start being able to prioritize what really is a big deal, and I think that's what it's that thing of. I was when I'm talking to my friends when we were back in undergrad. We were like, oh God, what were we tweaking out about? Like when we look, it's like it wasn't really that important. What was I stressing, crying, doing all these things? When I look back, I'm like, I didn't need to do all of that. Like, generally speaking, that was a lot. That was a lot. That was a lot of energy for like absolutely nothing.
Yeah. No, I get it. I definitely do. And that's it really is I don't think it falls on the human necessarily. I mean, a piece of it is, right, and we'll get into that. We'll get into how agency plays a role, but I'm not saying, oh, that person's terrible because they decided to go ahead and go straight instead of take a left. I'm not saying that the root cause stems from the human being. The root
Yeah.
cause stems from the systemic happenings of our modern day living. It's just how we operate. More and more demands are being placed on us. We understand a whole lot more than what we used to. So we are constantly trying to address all of the things in pursuit of the optimized human being. Uh, All of these things play that role in developing us. And so, well, that's great. We've identified this problem. We've talked about it for quite some time. Where does that agency come into play? Where is it that is our responsibility? And what I want to make very clear is we are not talking about, oh, you need to go find yourself a cabin in the woods and disappear for 6 weeks. No. Mm-mm. I don't think that's the case. I don't think that you need to I have a couple of friends that are like, "Oh, I just need to get rid of my phone." And you're like, probably not.
Yeah,
Probably
I,
not."
I think sometimes we like to blame. I don't want to use the word distraction, but like
Uh-huh.
for we like to blame it versus doing the work. Because like for example, if you go to the wood and you turn off your phone, like you still have access to the phone. Like it's not that the phone just goes away. If that
Uh-huh.
makes you are actively choosing or making choices to do that. Like it's like that thing of about eating better. Like it's not that just bad and junk. If you are eating junk food and bad food and process all these processed food, and then you decide to start eating healthy and doing more fruits and vegetables, it's not that the bad food just goes away and it no longer exists.
Uh-huh.
It's there. You still have the choice to do it, but
Uh-huh.
you put yourself in a certain mindset that that allows you to make these choices that you because you have an ultimate goal that you want to achieve by following the what's it called this road rather than that road.
And that's no, you're pretty much spot on. I Some of the questions to kind of ask yourself is, what does genuine rest and recovery look like for you? The problem with trying to answer that question is it is situational dependent. It is context dependent. We have to take in things like what's going on around us. What environment are we in? Again, I can assure you, in no way, shape, or form am I going to be able to relax in my living room because I just don't, that's not the place that I am going to find that relaxation. Not because the living room isn't a place to relax, so please don't. Again, personal, situation dependent. um,
Sometimes the living room is the only place to relax. There's too many
right,
people there. There's are too many people upstairs, and if there's everybody upstairs in the room making noise, there's nobody downstairs. So
right.
that's at least in my house. That's what
No,
I'm.
yeah. It's really about thinking about which environments help to reduce that input instead of adding to it. And certain environments will help you reduce that input. And that also goes with what you can do to rest, right? Or help you in identifying what is beneficial for your rest. If you perform an activity and it reduces your input and you feel better, mm, it increases that positive affect, then you are probably right along the right lines. If it doesn't do that, chances are it's not the rest that it is that you're looking for, because that your nervous system must settle in order to make that work. Thinking about it in terms of agency not being, think of it as, I don't want to say regulating, but it really is regulating the environment. It's paying attention to what it is and intentionally crafting all of those things in such a way that it allows you the opportunity for rest. And so, to that end, when does input actually stop in your day? And if you can't say, oh, it stops here, that's a problem. What feels restorative and what just feels like a distraction? Where are you overstimulated, but just referring to that as normal existence?
Mm-hmm.
Really, what we want to focus on is finding those patterns, because once I've identified those patterns, then we can begin to actually shift. Does that make sense? Wonderful. Um,
Wunderbar.
Again, this is not about being more productive. This is not about adding more. This is literally about inputting less into our system. Thanks for listening, everybody. Carlos and I greatly appreciate it. Comment something that resonated with you today. We are here for support, feedback, or anything else that you want to share. Join us on the Kindred app, a perfect space to keep unpacking what came up during the episode. Get live, peer-to-peer support from people with shared experiences. Kindred is built for those moments that no one else sees.
Take this one step deeper by reviewing today's reflection prompt in the show notes. Please don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and tune in next week for a new episode. Until next time, choose joy.